Welcome back to Unsolicited Feedback, the podcast where we cut through the noise, skip the corporate jargon, and get real about what actually drives results. Because let's be honest, hope is not a business strategy. I'm your host, Chuck Knabusch, the operations guy. And after 40 plus years across the military, corporate America, and now entrepreneurship, I've seen what works, what breaks, and why leadership, planning, and execution are the great separators between average and exceptional results. As you're catching the replay, send your thoughts or challenges directly to me at chuck@13ten.com, chuck@1310.com. Your time matters, so let's jump straight into today's topic. The KPI Chaos Problem. Why you need one source of truth before your plant tears itself apart. Let's talk about something every manufacturing leader has suffered through, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, but always painfully. Dueling data. I've been in plants where we didn't just have two versions of performance, we had entire alternate universes of production numbers. The plant manager had their version, the divisional ops VP had theirs, and the MES system had its truth, the ERP system had its own delayed version of the truth, and somehow nobody was ever wrong because the data magically supported whatever story someone wanted to tell that day. It's operational chaos in a spreadsheet, and today we're going to fix it. The biggest problem? Multiple sources of data create multiple versions of reality. The moment you have more than one data source driving KPIs, whether MESs, spreadsheets, dashboards, ERPs, Bob's personal access database from 1997, you don't have a measurement problem. You have a credibility problem, a trust problem, and a leadership alignment problem. Because if your leaders can't agree on what yesterday's production was, good luck getting them aligned on anything bigger, like strategy, cost reduction, cross-plant comparisons, or year-end performance reviews. Add on challenges like timing differences, and these create absolutely false narratives. Real talk, MES is real time, ERP isn't. MES will swear you hit 750 units today, while the ERP says 701. Is someone lying? No. One is right now, while the other is as of the last batch update. But here's the nasty twist. Leaders weaponize whichever number benefits them. That's when operational knives come out. So, what are some of the biggest symptoms? Leaders argue about numbers instead of solving the actual problem. If your morning production meeting spends 20 minutes debating whether the right number is 5.8, 6.1, or 6.0, instead of understanding what caused yesterday's downtime, congratulations, you're living in KPI purgatory. I've sat in meetings where we spent more time arguing about which data set to trust than about the fact that we blew customer lead time. When your data is fragmented, your conversations get hijacked. And when the conversation is hijacked, your execution completely dies. Here's a real story. At one point in my career, we literally had three versions of a production KPI. The plant manager liked the one that made them look good. The vice president of operations had a divisional summary that said otherwise. MES and ERP never matched, ever. It was like having three kids, each telling you a different version of how the vase got broken. But the vase was still broken. So what are some of those things that most people try? They try to reconcile everything, every system, every time. They try to build monster spreadsheets that pull data from everywhere, and they try and true up the MES to ERP. They try to just average out the differences. They try to have each leader use the KPI source that they personally prefer. Or worse, they create summary dashboards that magically smooth over all inconsistencies. It's duct tape driven data governance. People blow hours each week emailing, "Hey, why does your number say 9,870 when mine says 9,712? Meanwhile, quality issues are exploding, but everyone's too busy doing data archaeology. So, why these solutions fail? Because they don't fix alignment. They just document the disagreement. All you do is create more spreadsheets, more dashboards, more arguments, and more confusion. The truth is simple. You can't run your business if your leaders are debating what reality is. Most companies mistakenly think the issue is accuracy. It isn't. The issue is consistency, and consistency requires agreement. That's why reconciling multiple sources never works. Timing differences remain. Data entry delays remain. Rounding differences remain. And Bob's special spreadsheet remains. Political games definitely remain. And you can't improve what you cannot define. Here's a counterintuitive point. Choosing the ERP, even though it's slower, often fixes more problems than choosing the MES because cross-plant comparisons require the same timing, same process, same structure. The MES is too real-time and too inconsistent across facilities. The ERP is standardized. You don't pick the fastest horse, you pick the most governable one. The one thing that moves the needle? Create and enforce one source of truth, or one SOT. This is where everything changes. You sit everyone down, plant managers, operations leaders, finance, engineering, maybe even IT if they're feeling brave, and you make one decision. From this day forward, this one system is the official truth for all KPI reporting. In my case, that was the ERP. Why? Because timing differences are predictable. MES differences aren't. And most importantly, ERP is consistent across the division. Once you make that call, several things happen instantly. Meetings get shorter. Arguments become less frequent. Diagnostics and decisions happen faster. There's less hiding, more accountability, and total transparency. When everyone's reading from the same sheet of music, you finally get harmony. Before that, you got jazz and not the good kind. How to implement one SOT quickly. Step 1, pick the system that is most standardized, not the one that updates the fastest. Step 2, communicate the decision clearly and repeatedly. Step 3, lock KPIs to that system. No exceptions. Step 4, train plant leaders on timing differences so they stop panicking. Step 5, eliminate rogue data reports. If a spreadsheet starts floating around, stomp it out like a grease fire. Step 6, enforce it relentlessly. If someone brings different numbers to a meeting, send them back for the right ones. Data governance is discipline, not software. When your leaders finally agree on what actually happened, then, and only then, can you improve what happens next. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Unsolicited Feedback. Thanks for joining me, but don't just nod along. Apply something from today's conversation, because results don't show up just from listening. They show up because you did something. Even one small action this week will move the needle further than a month of good intentions. If you want to go deeper, scan the QR code or schedule a 30-minute strategy chat. I'd love to hear how you're using planning, leadership, and execution to make sure hope never becomes your business strategy. Drop a comment and like the episode. I'm Chuck Knabusch. Until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and don't you dare rely on hope.